UFP, the United Federation of Podcasts.
Welcome to Franchise Fatigue, the little podcast on the United Federation of Podcast Network, where two nerdy guys talk about all the films and sequels and remakes in a movie series, because we love movies, we love remakes, and we love sequels. My name is Brandon-Shea. I am your nerd host, and joining me, as always, is my good friend Zach Moore. Zach, thank you for joining me for our little recap retrospective on the Godfather trilogy.
Just when I thought I was out, they pull me back in. Sorry, I was contractually obligated to say that if we're talking about The Godfather.
Excellent. Well, I'm glad we pulled you in for one more recap episode.
Yes.
This is our little thing that we do where we just have a little recap. We ask a few questions on the franchise and leading us into the next series of movies. So I had a lot of fun because, as I've said a couple times, it's been 17 years since I've seen these three movies. So it was really, really awesome to revisit them. But Zach, first thing I want to do is I want to ask you, which is your favorite movie in this series?
I would have to go with the original Godfather. I feel that it's a little more focused in its narrative, although 2 is an excellent film as well. The back and forth doesn't entirely correlate all the way through. Also, it just kind of sags kind of near the middle. It kicks up in high gear probably the third act. But I again, both excellent films. But I'm gonna have to go with The Godfather Part 1. I mean, everything is very. For a movie that's over 3 hours long, everything is concise. Everything plays to the next thing. There's nothing is wasted in The Godfather 1, and when you just look at it, I mean, we keep saying that, I mean, people say Part 3 is unnecessary. I'm the one that said that, right? But, like, if you really look at it, even Part 2 is kind of unnecessary because you see the evolution from Michael to this guy who wants nothing to do with his family. He comes in from the war. He's an outsider, right? But all the way to the end of that movie, he becomes Don Corleone, right? And that is a perfect story, and you don't really need any more. So, if I had to pick one, I'm going with The Godfather 1.
I agree with you. This is definitely my favorite of them. I used to think it was The Godfather 2, and I think I was kind of influenced by public opinion because most people seem to think that The Godfather 2 is better. And some of the stuff we talked about in our episode on The Godfather 2 was how this trial came out of nowhere in the end, in the back half of the film. The plot as to who was trying to kill who was pretty confusing. You know, we're trying to figure out, even afterwards we're still confused. Who was trying to kill who? What was going on? Where there's none of that in the first one. You know, there's some amazing acting, and it is a complete story from start to finish. It's the story of Michael Corleone, not Vito Corleone. Michael not liking his family, staying away from his family, to fully immersing himself in the family from one beginning to the end. This whole life that he leads while he's in Sicily is like this really interesting tangent that his character goes on, but it's a believable tangent. You know, so I really think it is a perfect movie, the first Godfather film. So, Zach, I'll go first on this one here. I'm going to rank my films, and I'm going to rank them in the order that they came out. So I think Godfather 1's the best, followed by 2, and followed by 3 last. And while I've given them all 5-star ratings, I would rather watch the first, and then the second, and then the third.
Yeah, I agree. 1, 2, 3. And again, the second one is a great film, but I think people lean towards it more because maybe the more scope of the story, because you get the backstory Vito, you get Robert De Niro playing him, you get it, you don't really, but you kind of get 2 movies in one with Part 2, and that was something very fresh at the time, right? I mean, this is 1974, so this kind of non-chronological back and forth storytelling was not. Not that all these movies are like that today, but movies are pretty simple in their storytelling techniques. but simpler back then. And this was something, pretty fresh and unique. And I think that's why it sticks out to a lot of people. Also, just the notoriety of being the first sequel to win a Best Picture, or to alone be nominated and to win Best Picture just 2 years later. So, and they are a great complete set that came out just 2 years apart from each other. So I see why people go back and forth. But to me, just the through line of 1 gives it the edge over 2, and then 3. Even though you love 3, and I think 3 is better than a lot of people give it credit for, as we talked about in our last episode. Despite my issues with Sofia Coppola, it is a third. It's not like it's a distant third to those, but it's by no means a crumb of a cannoli like Chris thought initially. So I'm glad again. He gave it 3 out of 5 cannolis just like me. So there you have it.
Right on. Okay, so out of this series here, did you have a favorite mafia moment? Whether it's like a hit or, something that one of the family members does. Like, is there a favorite mafia moment that you had in this series of films?
Oh, man, a mafia moment. That's tough.
It might boil down to a hit, like a kill or something like that, but...
I'll say this, and you'll be surprised, but maybe it's because it's the last one I watched, but the first one that comes to mind when you say that is the helicopter attack in Godfather 3.
Okay.
Because it's so just intense and just something so unexpected and of grand scale, Now, as far as a more kind of like just visceral hit, I would probably say Sonny's death in the first one. Because, he pulls up to a toll booth, the toll attendant, ducks out of the way, guys just pop up out of nowhere and mow him down. He has nowhere to go, nowhere to hide. That's just the hopelessness of that hit. To me, that's what really stuck out. And then if you kind of had to, I'm giving you multiple answers here, so I'm just as I think about it. But the ones that stick out to me, and then honestly, and this is a turning point of the whole trilogy, and especially the first movie, obviously. But when Michael does his first hit in the restaurant, shoots the guys in the head and the throat and the head again. I mean, that is a turning point for the story and the character and the entire trilogy and saga. So, just the way the momentum, the suspense builds up for that. The train, the dolly ends on the facial expressions of Michael. You see the wheels turning in his head. That scene. Is probably the strongest of the ones that I mentioned, but those are the ones that stick out to me more than any others. So 2 from 1 and 1 from 3, Brandon. That's my answer.
Well, why don't you go ahead and what's a favorite one from number 2 then?
It's tough because nothing immediately, because those 3 immediately came to mind when you asked me that question. Because we did not prepare these questions beforehand, folks. This is raw Q&A here between me and Brandon. But in 2. Trying to think what sticks out to me. And
see, I got 1 from 2.
Yeah, what's yours from 2?
Okay, so mine from 2, it's probably my favorite of them all, because it gets me the most, is when Vito kills that old Don in Italy.
Oh, it cuts the stomach.
Guts him.
Yeah.
And he's like, mamma mia! I don't know, I just love that, because it's just so, brutal. What a horrible way to die. Mm-hmm. I don't know, I love that one a lot. That's probably my number 1. Yeah. But then, one of the ones from number 3 is when they kill the guy with the glasses, because it just gets kind of ridiculous. Right? That he come in, I gotta whisper in your ear, they all know, I can't believe that they let him do that, right?
They said he's clean, all right?
He's clean, but even still, that's pretty fishy.
Right?
And then to rip the glasses off of his face and then stab him with the arm of the glasses, that's pretty ridiculous.
That's some Jackie Chan. Some Jackie Chan level use your environment to achieve your objective. But it's crazy that did they know he had really strong glasses and that you could I'm obviously
they've seen him a few times.
I haven't tried to stab anyone or myself with my glasses, but I don't know if they would have the lethal.
Well, why don't you try right now?
All right, here we go, guys.
Here we go. Yourself right now. Live on the air. Oh, they work. Okay, well, this has been Franchise Fatigue, and it's.
Oh man, but hey, it was the 1979, so maybe glasses were made out of sturdier stuff back then. I don't know, but it's a good call though. Very, very visceral death there. Good call.
Yeah, and then in the first one, definitely Michael and Sonny were the 2 that came to mind for me on that one as well. Mm-hmm. So awesome. Okay, well now here's the ultimate question: why we're here? We like sequels. We like remakes. we've all said that we think that the movie was fatigued in the last one. We think the series has been fatigued. You said you might like to see a fourth one with what's his name? Carlito's Way.
Andy Garcia.
Andy Garcia.
Carlito's Way. That's not Andy Garcia.
Isn't he in that?
No, that's
who's in
that's
that?
Pacino with a beard.
I've never seen it. I don't know. I haven't seen the movie.
Ocean's 11.
You knew who I was talking about.
Yes.
Anyways, that guy who did the thing.
Yes.
If they did another one, what would you like to see? Would you like to see a remake? Would you like to see a sequel?
Not. No remakes. You'd have to do a sequel. You get Andy Garcia back. Here's my deal. See, you love the third one. I think the third one was good but flawed, right? So this perfect duology in my book has already been a little tainted, you know? So it's like, well, then why not? Just keep going, right? It's like Terminator. We're going to get to Terminator later this year, right? I think that Terminator 1 and 2 are this perfect duology, right? And 3 kind of screws everything up. So ever since then, I'm like, you know what? We'll get to it later this year, right? I'm like, you know what? Just keep trying and see if we can get better at this point. Because there's no harm. The masterpiece has been ruined. So you might as well just keep trying. It's like you get plastic surgery and it doesn't turn out just right. Just keep snipping away and cutting and nipping and tucking and seeing if you can get it right? So, that being said, if you make a Godfather...
That's how you end up with Michael Jackson.
That's the danger, but you never know until you try. So, yeah, Godfather IV, right? Just on the strength of Andy Garcia's performance alone, I'll be very fascinated to see what he would be as, because he is the heir apparent to Michael Corleone, to Al Pacino's Michael Corleone. And without Sofia Coppola in the picture, sky's the limit, right? I mean, there's so many, but the thing is, right, how do you make it feel like a Godfather movie without making it just feel like a generic gangster movie? And that's something, I didn't really mention that in Godfather Part 3 in our discussion. There was so much to talk about, but I give it credit for that as well. It did still feel like a Godfather movie. It didn't feel like Goodfellas or The Sopranos or something. Like, it really felt like, okay, I believe in this world. That helps because the actors and the characters and the fabric of it all, and the way it's shot and all that stuff, having the same creative forces behind it. But that would be very important, because you don't want it to be like Godfather in name only, right? Just just get some generic gangster movie and just slap Godfather on it and just say, here it is, guys, here's the next one. But, I mean, he would really be the only returning character, I would think, at this point, unless you get Michael's son back, maybe. You have other cousins around. Like I think, as far as actors go, you would kind of start with Andy Garcia and take it from there. You could recast pretty much anybody who are these younger kids we never saw before. Do something intriguing. Maybe add in, I don't know, go to another part of the world. I mean, we've kind of Las Vegas, New York are well-trotted territory. Stuff in Europe, stuff in Asia. I don't know. Just do something different enough with it, but it still needs to feel like Godfather. And Mario Puzo has since passed away, so I don't know. I would look at that script him and Coppola were working on before he passed away, do something with that. Although, like I said in the trivia from last time, that idea of the again, dual narratives of Vincent and then young Sonny, it's kind of odd because, how much time you really have to play with quote-unquote young Sonny? I mean, he was what, early 30s in the first movie? So you're looking at, some teenager to, his late 20s, and do you cast a young James Caan type to play that? And, I mean, they had DiCaprio in mind at the time. This is the early 2000s or late 90s, so DiCaprio would have fit. You have to get a different actor. But I don't know. I guess ultimately, sure, why not? Andy Garcia, Godfather Part 4. If nothing else, people will be extremely intrigued to see how it would turn out.
Mm-hmm. See, for me, if I were to see a Godfather 4, I would want it to be another young Vito. Because I really loved that part of The Godfather 2, and that was my favorite part of The Godfather 2. I would like to see that early 1900s New York again. I would like them to do a good, some good set design and some good, you get some real cars and stuff like that again. I like this kind of sepia tone that they had when they were filming that a little bit. So if I had a choice, that's where I would like to see it go, would be another young Vito. Expand on that storyline, because I think that's some of the best stuff there. I really liked Robert De Niro. He's obviously too old for that role now.
You CGI, de-age him.
Oh, dear Lord.
No, I that's a good call, Brandon, because I think that's you look at the gaps in the story you could kind of fill in. And what would you do? Would you do a movie in between 2 and 3? No, because you're not going to cast someone who's like a young or a middle-aged Pacino in between who we know, and You know what? That's interesting. Movies, I mean, to my knowledge, right?